The Cardinals are lucky. Myles Garrett has lost his leverage, and Matthew Stafford is staying a Ram, which is fantastic news for the Arizona Cardinals. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. We're jammed today. We are absolutely bona fide jammed today. Matthew Stafford, the numbers aren't out yet as this broke about half an hour before I'm recording right now. He's staying with the Rams. That's fantastic for the Cardinals. I'll explain. Myles Garrett, when being approached by Andrew Berry and the front office of the Cleveland Browns for a contract extension, he goes, nope, I'm not going to play for the Cleveland Browns anymore. That's potentially fantastic for the Arizona Cardinals. I'll explain. And the most important thing to any NFL team is having at least an average to above average quarterback. And the Cardinals are lucky that they've got Kyler Murray. I'll explain as to why. In my, geez, man, going on 14 years of sports media time, whether it was editing audio at 2 a.m. at KDUS, the old station head in Guadalupe, or reporting traffic for iHeartMedia, or working with Fox Sports 910 for years, hosting and producing shows. One thing has remained clear throughout my time, in the space, and that is I'm terrible at this. I don't know how I still have a job. No, the Arizona Cardinals never figure it out. It's just kind of what it is, and this is obviously they made the Super Bowl before I moved to Phoenix. Okay. They had the couple years with BA, and it all just came rushing back to me with the report card dropped 48 hours ago. And then, there's the thing about, there's $100 million a renovation in progress. It's not going to happen until 2027. I'll tell you what, kiddo, if it was actually in progress, it would be ready this year. It would be ready next year. This was something. PR. How is Michael Bidwell not going to get vilified? It's in the works. Don't worry, guys. We've got it. Don't worry. Look at all the Super Bowl championship trophies we have. We know exactly what we're doing. They don't. That's why that was a joke. They don't have trophies, but they act and pretend like they do. So anyways, and we're back. As I'm watching all of this combine coverage, okay, something just kept sticking into my head. And while it's not perfect, and while he's not a top 5 quarterback every time he takes a snap, it could be, and this isn't to deny or remove the confidence that people have in Kyler Murray, for those that do have confidence in Kyler Murray. And it's not one or the other. It's not absolute. It's not in a vacuum. You can have 75% confidence in Kyler Murray, which, look at New Orleans and ask how much confidence percentage-wise they have in their quarterback room, or Cleveland, or New York. I'm just off the top of my head. And when you look at the top of the draft every year, you see a bunch of teams that are jockeying for position. How much future draft capital would it take to move up? How much draft capital would we get to move down? Whatever it is, all under the guise and under the microscope, sometimes the smoke screen of these quarterbacks are the best coming out in this class, but ain't no way we know any of these guys are going to be good. Yet still, they've got to mortgage futures to move up and get these guys, unless you're drafting number 1 overall or whatever it may be, or number 2 overall. You've got to mortgage futures and hope you're right. Kyler Murray hasn't been perfect. Kyler Murray hasn't been great at times. Kyler Murray has lost the Cardinals games at times. And with all that said, at least 10, 12, 14 other organizations would take Kyler Murray in a heartbeat and give him a contract extension, sight unseen. So I think it is a wild fallacy for people who say, get him out of here. Don't even think about it, get him out of here. He doesn't want a playoff game, which is true. He hasn't played well in key moments. That's not to say that he hasn't played well in any key moments. He hasn't played well in key moments. You can say that for pretty much any quarterback. But what Kyler Murray does provide is what I call the oh my God moments that very few quarterbacks can provide. Even at their best day, they can't do what Kyler Murray does at his best day. And when you have the former head coach there, it's like I said, it's like if Urban Meyer stayed 4 years in Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence just gets a pass. Kyler Murray had to deal with it for 4 years, 5 years, 4 years. What Kyler Murray provides this organization is, while graded on a scale, you're kind of turning a C- into an A in this situation. I'm not saying Kyler Murray's a C-, but you're turning a C- into an A in the sense that Kyler Murray is a stable quarterback in a wild world of instability. And so many times, teams take stable over talented. Like, you tell me that Jameis Winston couldn't start for like 10 teams. He 100% could. 100% could, but he's unstable with his play. He's the 30-30 king. Kyler Murray is stable to a fault at times, but when he's great, he's incredible. And when he's bad, it's never as bad as the bottom tier quarterbacks. So in this day of looking at, is it going to be Cam Ward? Is it going to be Shedeur Sanders? Is it going to be Quinn Ewers? Is Jackson Dart going to, shoot up the rankings around draft day? It's like, you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about potentially trading 3 first-round picks to move up 5 spots and draft a quarterback that might not work. Do you know how incredible that should feel? Even if you don't think Kyler Murray's the guy, and that's fine. You can think whatever you want. What Kyler Murray provides for this organization is stability. And it's not perfect, and it's not great always. And look elsewhere. Aside from Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen, and Jalen Hurts now because he won a Super Bowl, who else is 100%, no doubt about it, stable every week? You can trust exactly what they're going to do. Yeah, but he's got a bad situation. Yeah, but he's got a bad this. Everybody else gets excuses except for Kyler Murray. And I'm not saying Kyler Murray should be the Arizona Cardinals quarterback for the next decade. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is putting into perspective what other organizations have to do this time of year to have the chance, the figment of chance, to potentially have a quarterback that potentially could be good while mortgaging the entire future. And if it doesn't work, you're screwed. Cardinals don't have to. And you'll take it. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Myles Garrett loses all his leverage, and it's fantastic for the Cardinals on the outside chance. They want to make a move for the first ballot Hall of Famer. I'll discuss it next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on that action than FanDuel. America's #1 sports. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip-off and want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether it's backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is super easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on. Myles Garrett refuses to sign any sort of contract extension with Cleveland. Myles Garrett refuses to do anything and seemingly doesn't want to play another down as a Brown. Can you blame him? Now, while I understand and while I completely and rationally know the chance of the Cardinals trading for Myles Garrett is slim, it does require a conversation for one very specific reason. Myles Garrett lost all his leverage. In turn, the Browns lost all their leverage. And what this is going to become is what we see a lot. The offers are going to be smaller than they want. They're going to want 2 first-round picks. That ain't going to happen. You're going to wait. Howie Roseman of the Eagles is going to jump in and say, hey, listen, we'll give you Cooper DeJean, a first-round pick, and, whoever else for Myles Garrett. Then they're like, no, it's still not enough. And then the Browns are going to realize that they have no leverage, that the only leverage they have is when it's a bidding war between other organizations. And then other organizations are going to realize you don't want to give 2 first-round picks for Myles Garrett and then give him a whole boatload of cheese when his current contract is up. So the reason why the Cardinals are even in the conversation, in my opinion, is because the price has immediately gone down. It's immediately gone down. And it's still maybe way too high that the Cardinals want to pay. If it's a first and a second and then giving him a contract extension, it may be too much. But when you look at the situation, and when I've mentioned over the course of this offseason so far, the Cardinals need a world beater on defense now. They don't need to draft yes, if you draft an edge rusher at 16, am I going to eat your lunch for it? No. But if you can get a world beater up front, to go along with that young secondary, maybe coerce Kazir White to come back so he and Mac Wilson can be the duo in the middle of the field for the foreseeable future. And then you're off to the races. It jumps a couple steps in the rebuild process. So yeah, you'd have to give up this year's first probably, and next year's second probably, and then give him a contract extension probably. But you get Myles Garrett. And the Cardinals are so much closer than people think right now. And of course, Michael Bidwell has never spent money. So chances are that's going to be the roadblock the Cardinals are going to never be able to circumvent until he does. Until he does fire Steve Keim, until he does fire Cliff Kingsbury, until he does cast a wide net, until he does hire Jonathan Gannon and let him do his thing. He's done everything since firing Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury that he said he was going to do. So why wouldn't this be a possibility to change also? I know it's money. I know it's not people. I completely understand that. And the Cardinals are a playoff team with Myles Garrett next season. If that's the only move they make, I think they're a playoff team with he, Darius Robinson, and Bija Ojulari up front. We'll see what happens with Zaven Collins. I don't really know. I mean, take him or leave him at this point. They're ready, in my opinion. And then they do get other draft picks. And then they will have more money to spend. And because a lot of the impact makers especially on defense, and then Marvin Harrison Jr. are on rookie scale contracts, Paris Johnson Jr., you can spend the money. And then you can start the restructure game with Kyler Murray and all that stuff, like every other organization does. So the fact that Cleveland now knows, and I think they knew, but it's like official line in the sand that Myles Garrett doesn't want to play there anymore. And while it seems, oh man, their leverage actually would be higher because that means there are a lot of other teams that would want to go get him. Here's the thing. There's a lot of young teams that aren't a Myles Garrett away from contending. And I'm not saying the Cardinals are contending for a Super Bowl if they trade for Myles Garrett. No. What I'm saying is this will expedite the rebuild process. Myles Garrett isn't 35. And he's not going to be the highest paid defensive lineman in football on his 3rd contract or 4th contract, whatever it would be. At some point, people in my comments, on Twitter, everybody who says the Cardinals suck and the Cardinals will never change, while history is on your side, that doesn't mean that the Cardinals won't make a move to absolutely change the organization. Oh, it'll never happen. Why do you watch? Truly. Go watch a horror movie or something if that's how watching the Cardinals is going to make you feel. These things we discuss on this show are my way of saying, hey, it can be different. It can be different. The Cardinals have the tools to make it different. Whether Michael Bidwell wants to fall on his sword and be like, yes, I've been wrong this entire time, giddy up, or not, we don't know. But what we do know up until this point, since firing Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury, he's done everything he said he was going to do. To a T. He didn't even know who the Cardinals were going to take at 27, for sure, until Monty Osborne told him in the war room, that filmed segment of, I think Darius Robinson's a guy. We just got to wait a couple more picks. What are you thinking on draft day? This is a far cry from he and Steve Keim watching film with Kyler Murray, with a head coach who was chasing butterflies. When I'm right 2 years from now, maybe people will start listening to me. I've been reading the tea leaves about this organization for the last 4 seasons, and people catch on late, but I've been saying it here for a long time, and I'm not saying, oh, I'm the greatest. I'm not. You heard what I said at the beginning of the show. I don't know how I still have a job. I'm just faking it until I make it, The Cardinals can 100% trade for Myles Garrett. They can 100% extend him, and they can 100% afford to give up future draft capital to do it because they don't need to get younger. And yes, Monty Osborne builds through the draft. I know that. He's done it. He's drafted 12 or 14 guys. How many guys do you need to build through the draft? Take the proven entity. Take the guy who's going to be a world beater. Take the guy who's going to be all pro. Pay him. And go win some damn games. Matthew Stafford staying with the Rams. The numbers aren't out as I'm reporting, but Ian Rappaport reported a deal is imminent, so I'm going to take that at face value. How does that help the Cardinals? I'll talk about it next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Matthew Stafford is a Hall of Famer. Okay? He's a Hall of Famer. Matthew Stafford is one of the stable guys that I didn't mention in the first segment because I was riffing. Matthew Stafford is one of those guys. Matthew Stafford is a consummate pro. Matthew Stafford is a leader. Matthew Stafford is a guy who plays. I think it was his rookie year when his arm fell off and he still ended up leading them on a game-winning drive. I think his arm fell off. Like Mr. Potato Head. His arm fell off. And he led them on a game-winning drive. It wasn't his throwing arm because that would be, he can't. Done. Matthew Stafford getting between $40 and $50 million a year for the next couple of years is fantastic for the Cardinals. That hamstrings the Rams. And I know that they've got Jared Verse and they got Byron Young and they've got a wildly young defense. That's great. And you also need stars in this league to win. And Cooper Kupp is 100. Puka Nacua is going to be a wide receiver 1 for the next decade, you think, depending on who's the quarterback next. And I almost think that if it were Matthew Stafford with all the cheese or Aaron Rodgers, I still think that Matthew Stafford being the starting quarterback for the Rams is better for the Cardinals, especially with the chunk he's going to take out of the salary cap. And I know they made the playoffs and they led this great drive in the snow that they could have beat Philly, but I'd rather have an elder statesman, injury prone. There was questions about if he even wanted to play anymore a couple of years ago. I'd much rather take that and have opposing, defenses catch on to what they do because it's rinse and repeat there. It's run the ball, it's Puka Nacua, it's the tight end, and it's a bunch of hungry and angry rushers up front on the defensive side of the ball. And they're great. Jared Verse is going to be great. Braden Fisk's going to be great. They nailed the draft last year. With all that said, I'd much rather Matthew Stafford take up all that cheese, the salary cap, so they can't go get a Von Miller or an OBJ or somebody like that, a Jalen Ramsey, whatever it is, like they've done in years past, just to rinse and repeat. This is the final hurrah for the Rams, and then the wheels fall off. And it's great. We're starting to see that with San Francisco. We don't know about Seattle yet. This is a perfect time for the Cardinals to be ascending, watching the rest of the division start to slowly crumble away. And I know I'm not saying that is imminent. Like Matthew said, next year they're going to be 3-13 or 3-14, whatever it is. I'm not saying that. These moves keep the Cardinals in the race, and that's fantastic. Matthew Stafford's been a killer of the Cardinals. I get that. They blew him out in week 2 when they had nobody healthy. And Cooper Kupp got hurt before halftime in that game. I'd rather have this than a revitalized Aaron Rodgers who can still move a little bit. I'd rather have this than, really any other situation that would impact the Cardinals, because this feels to me like a Kobe deal that the Lakers got. I think it was 2 for 48.5 or something. This was years ago, but they gave him the thank you money at the end. This seems like a thank you money contract. I don't know how he's getting this money. He's not worth $50 million. Come on, man. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's an all-pro. He is a stud. He is a leader. He is everything that people think he is. And he also isn't worth $50 million. It's fantastic for the Cardinals. One last thing that I want to mention here, because I want to pay off what I mentioned I was going to say yesterday, is through this process, let's try something. Through the free agency, through the draft. I don't care about other outlets. I don't care about who listen, other listeners to other things. Everydayers, let's try this. Let's hold hands. Who's got the guitar? I need somebody who actually plays guitar, not somebody who's like a month in, like, ooh, I got it. Ooh, nope, let me start over. No, we can't have those people around the campfire. Can't do it. Shunned. Sing Kumbaya and say, you know what? Trust Monty. Don't even think about it. Trust him. I'm starting to see people call for his head already. Like, let's be mature about this. What the hell is wrong with people? Let's be mature about this. Trust him. Because I'll tell you what, after this year, after this season is completed, regardless of if they're ravaged with injury, which you never hope anybody gets injured, and I say this, the team that I cover, that I've, worked in sports media for, your fandom, like, or the wildest enemy, the biggest enemy, you never want anybody to get hurt. If you do, you need to, I don't know. You're just not a very good person. At the end of the 2025 season, regardless of if it's injury-ridden or not, we will know the future of the GM, of the quarterback, of the offensive coordinator, of the defensive coordinator, and the head coach. We're going to know how to set proper expectations after this season. I'm not saying anybody will be fired, and I don't think they will. I'm not saying Kyler Murray's going to get a contract extension if they win 13 games and win a playoff game. I'm not saying that either. What I am saying is this is the culmination of everything that's been building up ever since Kyler Murray tore his ACL. From now through week 18 of the 2025 season. This is it. We are finally going to see exactly, with no excuses embedded, what the future of this organization will look like and with whom that future will be tied to. And I am here for it. So let's just do this. Trust Monty. He's given you no reason not to up until this point. Locked on Cardinals, your team every day. Have a great weekend. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you Monday.